How's it going, my friends? We are back with another video, and I really appreciate the support on my last video. Actually, last couple of videos, you guys have really seemed to enjoy them, and really enjoyed making them. The new cameras that Nikon has been coming out with are just freaking phenomenal. So I'm more than happy to talk about them and just help you guys, influence the buying decisions here, because you guys know that, I've built up a certain level of trust with the YouTube community that I have, and you guys know that I would never recommend something that I don't use myself and that I don't like. And if it does switch out of my gear, I'm always accessible. You guys can, through DMs and comment sections and all that, and ask me questions if I'm still using that lens or camera or something. I always tell you, how it still fits into my workflow. But yeah, so today I wanted to talk about the 40 millimeter f2, this new Nikon Z lens. I mean, it's been out for a little while, but I've literally just started using it since I've got the ZF, and man, I can't tell you guys how much I freaking love this thing. Okay, you guys know that I'm a wedding photographer. That's my bread and butter. That's my profession, and I'm always a little reluctant to really I try a lot of different focal lengths and a lot of different types of lenses, but I'm reluctant to say, okay, this thing is part of my workflow now, because once you find something that works and you know that you don't have to constantly go searching for your camera bag to get a new lens. I just know that I have two bodies on me, and these two lens combos work great for like 95% of the wedding. I don't have to go searching for my bag. So I'm reluctant to add pieces in as a staple, but this thing is going to stay on. Now, when I'm just doing photo, I always have two camera bodies on me, but when I'm just doing photo, this is going to be on the ZF. No questions, okay? It's gonna stay on. When I'm doing video, I'm gonna have to put a zoom lens on just because I need, different focal lengths, but the majority of my weddings are still photo only, so this is gonna be on most of the time. Man, I gotta tell you guys, the ease of use and the uniqueness of the focal length, specifically for weddings and shooting people, is like unmatched. Okay, so I have some notes that I wrote down here that I really wanna touch on. So the first thing is, this is a perfect focal length for weddings. Straight up, perfect focal length, okay? If I had to grab one camera and one lens for a whole wedding, somebody said to me, you can't shoot anything else this whole day, and I didn't know what the venue looked like. I didn't know what the, whole setup for the wedding was gonna be or anything like that. I didn't have any prior information. Telling you right now, I would grab this. Most people would say 35, and I'm going to talk about the difference between the 35 and the 40, but I would say 40, okay? It's just something that you normally don't see, and there's a lot of wedding photographers out there, and people are always comparing themselves to other people's work, and it can get daunting when you see the same types of focal lengths, because if you've been in the game for a while, you can look at a photo and get pretty close to, oh, that shot with a 35. Oh, that shot with an 80. That's definitely a 70 to 100. You just kind of know. This is something you don't see, okay? Everybody's, not everybody, but the majority of wedding photographers are on a 35-85 combo or a 24 and a 50 combo. That's the majority. Or they're on a 24 to 70. Primes though, 35, 85, 24, and 50. That's one reason why I love the 28 and 58 combo, and I use that for such a long time because it was just different. Now, step in with the 42. That is a different focal length. And yes, you could probably say, oh, it's only 5 millimeters difference, but between a 35 and a 40. But I'm telling you, it makes a big difference. It's wide enough to where you can get group shots with ease, and you don't have to stand too far back to get everybody in it. Say you're doing a bridal party shot. You can find places, unless it's a massive wedding party where you're talking like 25 to 30 people in the wedding party, which we have that, but it's not the norm. Normally it's around like 6 people on each side. You can find a spot where you can get everybody in. And the extra reach gives you a little bit more depth of field, and it just looks unique. It really does. It's a different type of focal length. You're getting the separation of subject, but it's not as much as a 50, okay? And the 50 is awesome. It's a great focal length, but it's a little bit too tight for everything in a wedding. You do need, I did a video on this. I have shot a whole wedding with a 50, but it was a unique situation. It was a backyard wedding, and there was just plenty of space for me to move around. With the 40, I feel like I could go to a venue and I could absolutely shoot everything with it. And it gives me something unique that you don't actually see all the time. And that is so critical in your work. After a while, man, the worst thing that you could do is get on like a couple recommended vendor lists at, you know, the same country clubs or the same place. And you're shooting at the same places over and over again with the same focal lengths, same positions, same lighting, same setups all the time. That's when, you know, the inspiration starts to run dry and things get tough. You got to switch it up sometimes. And this is just an excellent way in terms of the focal length perspective that you don't see all the time. And it gives you enough versatility where I could feel comfortable taking this and just doing the whole wedding with it. I wouldn't do that because I like to have other ingredients. But if I had to, this would be the one. The ease of use. That's another bullet point I had. I mean, come on, look how small this thing is. In my ZF video, I was talking about that you're not, the actual just body is not saving a ton of weight over the Z6 II. It's basically the same, or it feels basically the same. I haven't actually put both of them on the scale, but the weight is there because the internals on this are better than the Z6 II, so just feel like there's more hardware, plus this is all metal. When you put a 42 lens on this, now you're starting to save a bunch of weight and space and size. I mean, look how small this thing is. It's tiny. Okay, and this is a beast. It's an f2 lens, so yeah, it's not a 1.8 or a 1.4, but I mean, with a 24 megapixel sensor, you can jack the ISO up, run some noise reduction, and the photos look amazing afterwards. You don't have to really ISO, you know, not to get too far off track on a tangent here, but high ISOs don't mean, it doesn't mean what it used to mean, like even 5 years ago with cameras. Shit, even like 3 years ago with cameras. The sensors, the algorithms, the internal technology, the processors, all that make the photos much more high quality. And plus with the AI stuff in the Lightroom and Topaz, noise, whatever you use, high ISO just isn't a problem. The only problem with high ISO is when you're running noise reduction on like 500 plus photos, you got to have a powerful computer. Otherwise, it's literally going to take like a day to run. Like you can't even edit. You just have to, you know, select all, run noise production, and walk away from the, you know, come back to your computer the next day, and it'll be done. If your computer can actually handle that. We run Mac Studios here, and still the Mac Studios take like a good 6 hours to denoise like 600 photos. So that's the hiccup, and that's the fly in the ointment with the noise reduction. But the photos and the image quality is amazing. And so who cares if it's an f2? You know, honestly, who cares? I mean, if you're a wedding photographer, I assume you're using, you know, you're adding your own light when you need to anyways. But yeah, look how small and light and tactile it is. I mean, it is made of plastic, but it's good plastic. It's like solid, hard plastic. I am not going to lie to you guys. If you see this, I'm going to do a video on this also, our new camera strap holster setup. We're using spider holsters in combination with straps. This one, I just used a spider holster, and my Z8 I had on a strap plus a spider holster, and this thing I forgot to lock it a couple times, so when it was bending down and stuff, it fell, I think, 4 times at the last wedding last weekend, or I'm sorry, this weekend that just passed, and yeah, it's like fell on the ground, and I think one time it fell from like a good, you know, 1.5 feet, and you know, it's fine. I mean, it sucks. I'm like, ooh, I cringe when it happened, but it's not dinged up or anything like that. I mean, it's a good lens. It really is. There's no buttons on it. There's not even a manual autofocus button to switch back and forth, but you don't need it because as soon as you grab the lens ring, it just goes into manual focus anyways, so you don't even need it. Very low element. It doesn't have a lot of flaring or ghosting or anything like that, or veiling, which is really nice. I mean, I kind of like the flares in a lot of my photos when I'm shooting backlit, but the problem is with the G lens is you get veiling, which is that like kind of white. The flaring is one thing, but then it like casts this whiteness around that's very uncontrasty, and it's hard to correct. And if you try to correct it in Photoshop, a lot of times it just has to be a black and white image because the colors fall apart. You get very little of that veiling with this, which is really nice. The autofocus, I think I had that as a bullet point. Yeah, so the autofocus is very sharp, direct, true, snaps right into it. It's just a fast lens. I mean, it really is. I didn't really have to worry. I was worried way more about what was going on, my subject and all that, rather than if it was in focus. When I go back and look at the photos, they were all in focus. So it's a great autofocus lens as well. Yeah, I talked about the plastic. And finally, I mean, the price is right. I mean, how do you not own this lens? If you have the Z system, how do you not own this lens? I got this for $200 on eBay. $200 is brand new. I mean, yeah, it's got like a plastic filter threads and all that. I mean, I don't even see any weather sealing on here. But, I mean, who cares? Just don't, like, freaking, you know, bring it out when it's pouring rain, you know, or dump it in water or something like that. Or carry, if it is raining, carry an umbrella in one hand and shoot with the other. You can't get everything for nothing. You know, it's a very, very low price lens. So this is a no-brainer, honestly. It's so good. It's so good that I would prefer to use this over a 35 1.4G with an adapter. Now think about that, okay? That lens is still like $700 on eBay used, okay? And this thing is $200. I mean, it's just a really nice lens, guys. And I'm making a actual definite recommendation that everybody who owns a Z camera should own one of these. Do your best to come up with some things, focal lengths, and different things on wedding that can inspire you to look at things differently and put yourself in out of the box of the comfortability, okay? Try and make it as interesting as possible. But that is definitely a screaming buy. And yeah, if you guys have been using it, just let me know in the comments. Also, there's obviously not a ton of, I didn't pack this with sample images or anything like that. I don't ask you guys to buy anything on my channel. I don't really ask for donations or anything like that. But I do appreciate the follows on Instagram because, you know, it helps us build an audience and things. So I have, since I've got this lens, we're starting to upload like a ton of photos from the 40mm f2, and you guys can kind of tell. And if you leave a comment and ask what it was shot on, I'll tell you. So please go follow our Perla Images page, which is just, it's at Perla Images on Instagram, and you know, the Monochrome Memoirs on Instagram, and you can see all the sample shots that I've been shooting with this. And you know, yeah, it's a phenomenal lens. So hope you guys buy it, and yeah, till the next video, my friends.